You had a great phone screen. The in-person interview went great. You met with the team multiple times, let's say. You've had a design exercise which you delivered, which they liked. They put you in front of the whiteboard, and you were able to deliver and come up with clever ideas. The follow-up was great. At this point, they're like, all right, you're down to maybe 2 or 3 candidates, and then they ultimately decide that we want you, and it turns to salary negotiation. Do you have any tips, or how do you negotiate salary?
I think knowing what the fair rate is for your level is good. Going in with a ballpark is important.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out, I wouldn't expect to be paid what a senior person might expect to be paid. But I also think that setting some terms for your growth and advancement are good. So understanding, well, listen, if I've been there for, when do I get my review, for example, or do I get a review, and who does that review? And then what does that mean as my reviews go good? Because, somebody said like the best senior designers are junior designers, right? Because you grow into it. So are you able to have that ability to, do you have that opportunity for advancement? And that should be part of I think that should be part of the conversation at that point.
One of the questions that I get a lot from new designers is related to salary negotiation. They say, what should my salary be? I don't even know. Mm-hmm. And I say, what was your salary previously? Well, it wasn't even in UX, and it was much, much less than what sort of a starting UX designer salary is. And one of the things I always say is that what is the minimum you would take to work at this job? What is the absolute minimum? And that's, do you have to commute? And so we start, the minimum is 65. So you're telling me you wouldn't work for 64?
Right.
I just couldn't afford it. So, okay, 65. So your limit, your bottom limit is 65. What is your maximum, right? And that's where people are like, I don't know, 300,000? What do you think is fair? What would you feel comfortable with? And I say, well, does your experience level match 80 for your demographic? They're like, well, where do I find that out? On Indeed and Glassdoor and a couple other sites, they have sort of what junior UX designers, like the average salary is. If I see like a pack of 10 black t-shirts for $10, I'm going to anchor to that. Oh, what a great deal. And then I go into Macy's and find out, oh no, it's 50. Wait, what?
Right.
Because I've anchored on the lower price. You don't want them to anchor on a lower price. So you never say your lowest is 65, and then when they ask you what's your salary and you say 65, I say go in with 80.
I think it's more being a junior designer. It's just more nerve-wracking because everything's new. It's like, okay, there's self-doubt. Do I feel like I'm even valued at the minimum? Do I even feel like I'm good enough? The way I like to answer that is, if you're qualified and you have the skills and you've demonstrated it, then you are to get that rate. So get that out of the way. Then it becomes how flexible are you with negotiation and terms. And I think that's an ongoing challenge for everybody in every profession. But I think the more confident and direct you are with, this is what I want to be paid, or this is how much this project costs, you're basically scoping your employment in a sense.
So you give an answer, and then they counter. How do you respond?
If you want it, if you believe in it, then you take it and you move on. I think hair splitting is not the right approach. However, I think we've all been there. Like you say, okay, well, let's say your minimum is 60 and they want to pay you like 59. Like, do you really want to have that conversation?
Right.
But why did they bring that up in the first place? If you said 60 and they say 59, it's like, I think knowing what your value is and knowing what you're worth is the first step of this, and then you just have to be ready to negotiate. I've taken pay cuts where I've been very excited about a project or a company, just to be a part of that, knowing that, well, in the future, yes, I'm taking a pay cut now, but if these things happen, then I'll be able to get closer to what I was getting. And I think those are just healthy ways to look at things. But it's not always the case. Sometimes that opportunity doesn't exist.
What if the company says, "Well, we'll offer you. We're not going to pay you what you want. We're going to pay you less, but we're going to offer you a really nice equity package." Now, again, think in terms of new designer who's maybe not ever experienced the equity counteroffer. How do you manage that?
I think for a new designer, unless they are skilled and qualified to understand the potential or the lack of potential in a product or a company, that equity is meaningless. I think, you're just starting out, getting your cash compensation, building your life, paying your bills, things like that are important. I've certainly made equity mistakes in the past that just never worked out, right? If the stat is 90% of startups fail, then equity maybe isn't the right angle. So it's just about pay me for my time. And as you're starting out, I think the other thing to keep in mind for a junior designer is that don't expect to stay there for 5 years.
Right.
It's like you're probably gonna be there for a year, if that. And it's just the days of working at places for a very, very long time, I think, are over. People are working more remote these days. People are working more when they're needed on project-based types of initiatives.
Yeah.
So, it's not about sitting in front of my monitor when I have downtime and pretending I'm working. Am I needed? Great. Here I am. I'm ready to do it. Pay me. I'm done. I get to go home. And you have that kind of back and forth. So I would expect that just because you're starting out at a new job as a junior, you're not thinking like you're going to stay there forever unless it's this amazing opportunity, to work at Apple or something. Equity is a gamble. Equity is, there's not a guarantee, but it's a carrot that gets dangled. I'd much rather have an extra week of vacation or be able to leave at a reasonable time. You know what I mean? You get to the point where you've been in the field for a long time. And you're like, do I really want to burn out? Do I want to work like this anymore? I want to work all these hours. Where do they actually get? What do they actually get me? And that's something that just comes with time. Like for me, I know I work better in the morning. Like I'm not very good at night at the end of the day anymore. But I can get up at 4 or 5, start cranking, put a dent into something if I need to, and feel good about it, and then get a good sleep.
And then spend the rest of the day surfing.
Yeah, and then exactly. Like I think, as much as we talk about jobs, and this is the UXJOBS podcast, it's about finding what works for you, but making sure that you're getting compensated. Now, I had a former student, or I heard about a former student that just took a little bit of equity in a company to continue working on a project that they started in class without getting paid. And to me, I'm like, that's not cool from the company's angle to just do that, because that's free work, right? There's no tangibility in there. It's like, I need to take the subway. I need to eat lunch. I need to keep the lights on. Like, don't do that. Don't fall into the trap as a junior. Someone's just offering me equity. It's not going to be a get rich quick thing. It never is. In fact, if you're getting into UX for that, that's the wrong way to get into it. I got into it because it's one thing I felt I was good at. I felt I was good at design. It came naturally in some sense. So I wanted to nurture that, call it whatever you want, call it talent, call it process. I wanted to just practice it. I wanted to get better at it. But I never got into it thinking, I think I'll make a living out of it. I'll make a living out of it.